The Lightning Audio Network presents Martini Mondays with Phil Esposito and Bobby the Chief Taylor. Have a seat, grab a cocktail, and enjoy the show. Here's Espo and Chief.
This is how old this is. You didn't realize it. You never had numbers on or names on the back of your sweater.
Oh, really?
No, never. And so,
and is there a reason for that, or is it?
Well, no. Programs. They wanted to get all that money for the programs.
50 cents.
So you would have to identify.
You have to buy a program
to find out who the number was.
That's genius.
So get the guy's name.
So we had the names on the back there, and they were supposed to be where you could read them, right? Harold Ballard didn't do it. No. He wasn't doing it, no. Finally, after about a year and a half or 2 years, he said, you have to put it on, or you're not going to be, we won't allow the Leafs to play. So he put them on. They were that big.
That's
you couldn't read them anyway. They were like this. You couldn't read them. But he said, well, I put them on the back of my sweater. Oh, he was a beauty, that guy. Wasn't he, Phil?
You remember Maple Leaf Gardens?
The old one.
Did you ever play in the old Maple Leaf?
No. So the only kind of I played where the Marlies played, which is kind of like, you know, it's kind of like right by Maple Leaf Gardens where it was, but it's not the same. It's all restructured.
It's by the CNE.
Yeah,
Rico place
Rico building.
Yeah,
Rico building.
Yeah, but Maple Leaf Gardens I never played in.
Well,
that's where the minor league team plays.
So the oldest building I played in was probably the Igloo in Pittsburgh.
Oh yeah.
So that was probably the oldest. Like I was kind of like at the. Wow, I didn't see a lot of the old.
But this
ones.
Maple Leaf.
You didn't play in the Spectrum,
Chief? Did, yeah. Exhibition game.
Exhibition game. Oh, okay.
In the old Maple Leaf Gardens, they had this one thing right by his net to the left. It was like a bunker. Okay,
that's where Harold.
He and King Clancy would sit there, and it was just above the glass.
Yeah,
like you couldn't.
Well, at the time it was a wire mesh.
Wire mesh.
It was right in the old days, back in the old days. Right
how
there.
many times I tried to put the puck into that thing to try to hit him.
It was like a machine gun bunker. You see in those World War II movies.
I'd skate out there and I'd be shooting. I'd go, and he'd be going, you bastard. He'd be yelling at me. And he knew I was trying to hit him.
Oh, he was funny.
Harold was, but he came with us in 72. He and Billy Wirtz, the whole trip, just before he went to jail.
Oh, yeah.
Because Tony went up there and said, listen, when you go to jail, what are you doing with your new Lincoln? And he said, what? He said, I think Paul Henderson deserves it, don't you?
Oh, my God.
We had fun with him. And Harold was... He was something special. I would have hated to play for him.
Oh.
And I would have, there's no doubt, I would have hated it. But this guy, I remember after the game in Canada, the second game against the Russians, we won 4-1, and he comes in the dressing room, and he's bellowing, where's the, because my dad was there, I want to meet the son of a bitch that sired those two guys, Tony. He meets him and he says, I want to hire you out to make hockey players. Oh, he was nuts, man.
Oh, he really was.
That's the great thing about this game. There's so many characters.
Oh,
characters. That's what I really like, and still to this day I hear it, of all the sports, people say hockey players are the most courteous, the funniest, and the most reachable. And they are there. Don't they?
Yeah, they do all the time. Yeah.
Do they do it to your era too?
Yeah, I hear that a lot. And I think guys take a lot of pride in that. Being approachable and being like that whole thing of like, who do you want to have a beer with? I think guys like that, and hockey players, even though it's become, more of a big business and more professional in a lot of aspects, I think guys still retain a lot of that.
Yeah. I always likened it to, like, we never got recruited, basically. Like, when we were automatically Chicago property because where we lived, but you didn't get recruited. Like, kids now get recruited to go to high school, like in football and baseball, especially football.
Yeah.
And you're put on a pedestal when you're like 14 years old, and that, it's hard to handle that kind of stuff, I think, at 14. Whereas here, unless you're Bobby Orr, who let's change the rules for the draft, because I played against him when he was 14. He was the best player in the OHL.
I'll tell you what.
When he played in Oshawa, holy crow.
Robert was something.
Oh,
and
he was an incredible player.
The ability that he had, never wore socks.
Yeah.
In his skates.
Really? Yeah. And was there a reason for that, or just like?
I have no idea. I didn't remember. He only put one strip of tape on his stick.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. Yeah.
And I asked him one time, how come you didn't wear socks? Didn't your feet get hurt? Jesus.
Phil, all the odds, Kobe doesn't know this story. You get skates, right? The old tacks, and they were leather.
One pair.
And you would put them on, and you would soak them in water with the skates on.
Okay.
Like this, so because then when they dry, they form to your foot.
Right.
You did you ever hear that?
No.
I know. Honest to God, when you get a new pair of skates, you would put them on.
One pair a year.
One pair a year, and you would tighten them up, and you put them in water, and then we get the leather all soaking wet, and it would form to your feet. And then they would dry, and so when you put them in, it was like putting on a pair of slippers.
Oh, my God.
Hell, I'd use the same stick for at least 6, 7 games.
When I played with Chris Pronger, he had, I think it was over 20 pairs of skates in 1 year.
I know.
Like
20.
Mark Messier told me that he would change skates almost every week.
Yeah.
We
could never do that.
Man. See, I grew up having to pay for my own skates, so I did.
I wasn't good enough to do that, but Bronx.
Did you get new ones or did you get secondhand? Because my first pair of skates were secondhand, and my dad paid $4 for them.
Well, I heard Patrick Kane, he switches gloves like every other game. You know, his new pair of gloves. I'm like, how did they get?
I don't know. What
happens to the gloves in 2 games? But
Carl Brewer, and this is where made it like Carl Brewer used to cut the palms out of his stick.
The repalming.
What he would do, the hand would like this, and he would stick his hands underneath, and he'd grab your stick. For your sweater, and it does look like he's holding on to it, but you couldn't move it because the fingers were straight out like this, so he could do that.
Oh my God!
So then they made a rule that you couldn't cut the palms.
That's the beauty of the one ref too. You know, you get away with stuff
so much. Yeah,
as the play's moving up, I remember like giving guys good whacks on the back of the legs.
3 plays a game,
right?
If you got them,
and they always evened them up, right? You know, it was like
absolutely.
What we used to do as goalies, we would just push them right in the back of the knee.
Oh, yeah.
And they would collapse like they were a redwood.
Yeah.
You know, just so they wouldn't know, like we couldn't see you, just like this. And you couldn't see it. One referee, he had to go around, would break this, and they would just fall like they were hit with a rifle.
I remember my goalie in junior, his last name was Ramage, and he went to do it to the other player and got me his own defenseman. And I remember getting, and then I was laying on my back and he's looking down at me and my head's between his legs. And he's like, Kobe, what are you doing? I'm like, you tell me, man.
Back when I first started, both guys would go in the penalty box and either an usher or a cop would sit between you.
That's so
one penalty box.
You asked about the spectrum, about the game. So we're going into the spectrum, and they're telling us all the history about the spectrum. And we're walking down the hallway, and they go, and then this year you guys should be familiar with this is Homer's gate, and it was like a gate. So the team would walk by the gate, and then they would lock the gate because I guess apparently Paul Holmgren would get kicked out of the game,
and Wayne Cashman,
and then they'd go down the hallway, and then they'd fight, and grab the other guy. So they had this gate with the armed cop standing there.
Yeah.
So both left-handers, too. And
with their skates on and everything, sparks were flying and everything.
And I remember thinking, oh, my God, like what an era of, like this is crazy.
It was in junior was really crazy. I remember in junior getting in a fight with a guy named Ronnie Harris who he's the guy that got my knee, too. But he was the Golden Gloves champion.
Oh, I know.
Of Hamilton.
Oh, yeah.
You know that? Oh, so I waited.
Well, he was so muscle bound. He had muscles in his fascias.
But I don't think I ever told you this, Chief. We go in the penalty box, and I sucker him. And then he beats the hell out of me again. So we both get thrown out of the game, and I wait around the corner by the dressing room. As he comes across, I hit him again, and he beat the hell out of me again. 3 times I figured I had enough.
Yeah. You got this. I'll give you that.
Okay, you got me, pal. He's the one that got my knee. 73.
Well, I remember the big fight I remember, there's a big picture that floats around now every once in a while. We're playing Vancouver. And there was no penalty for bench clearing.
Right.
So, we're beating Vancouver pretty good. And Gary Smith, the goalie, they call him Suitcase because he played about 14 teams, and we only had 12 at the time. Anyway, and Smitty was one of the nicest guys you could ever think of. All of a sudden, we're watching, and Bernie's playing there, and we're down this way, and all of a sudden, Smitty comes skating out of the bench, going along like this, and I'm going, what the hell? What? He's jumping off the bench because he's got so upset he's going to start a fight. The goalie, the spare goalie. So I jump over. I says, I got to go over there.
I got to grab him.
So now we're going out there, and honestly, God, it's funny. There's a picture floating around. You can see it. We ended up in center ice. Both teams put a circle around us so the referees couldn't get in. And me and Smitty are duking it out. It was funnier now. The kicker to the story is the following fall, we go to Chicago because Smitty was, I think he was living in Chicago at the time.
Well, he was playing with the Blackhawks.
Yeah, but anyway,
Tony's backup.
We used to go to this bar called Hennessy's all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And we would go. We were sitting in Hennessy's, and all of a sudden, Smitty comes in. So I'm with Eddie Van Emp and Joe Watson, and they're going, Chief, Smitty's here. So they think we're going to fight again. We look at each other, we start laughing.
Oh, my God.
I go, Smitty, what the hell were you thinking?
He was a big guy, too.
Oh, he's 6'4".
Yeah.
Huge.
You're like,
So I had to jump up to hit him.
And he was big.
Yeah. And he started out, he says, oh, Chief, he says, I was so upset because you guys, not only were you beating us on the scoreboard again, you were kicking our ass again.
Right.
So I just had enough of it. I said, well, yeah, but that meant I had to go out there. And goalies don't fight. We have a pretty good union, we don't fight.
You're part of the fraternity.
It was really funny. But you could see the circle right at center ice. I've had a couple of people send me this picture.
But probably no suspension or like just maybe a.
No.
Right? When I was a kid, I would go see the Swift Broncos, and they were in the Western Hockey League. And the first time I went and watched them, I'm sitting there during warmups, and the team comes out, and they got the full ice. They're warming up on the full ice, and they warm up for whatever it was, 15, 10 minutes or whatever it was. And then the other team comes out.
Yeah.
And I'm asking my dad, I'm like, what is going on? And he goes, well, it used to be that there was just too many warm-up fights and the game would start and there was no penalties. Whatever happened in warm-ups didn't carry over to the game.
They shut the lights sometimes because you were fighting. They just shut the lights.
So their solution was like one team gets the full ice for warm-up and then the other team comes out. And that was the solution. I was like, that's pretty smart, I guess.
Yeah.
In the 60s, there was no warm-ups.
No warm-ups, just right into the game.
You came out on the ice and you skated around a little bit. Had the national anthem, dropped the puck, and away we went.
Blake Wesley, who was my assistant coach in Portland, told me stories about
Blake Wesley.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
The New Westminster Bruins, and they had a tough, mean team, and they would go down.
Yeah.
Who was the coach of that? The guy with the.
So they would go down to the other team and they would steal their net. And so they would bring it down and they'd have warm up with 2 nets. And then they'd go down and take all the pucks. So the other team's just skating around, no net, no pucks. And New Westminster skating there with 2 nets, all the pucks.
Oh, yeah.
And before the game even starts, you're just going to get beat to live in hell because they just had a goon squad.
Yeah.
And they would start right away. And Blake was telling us about some of these antics.
Who was the big centerman who went on to play for the Islanders? And he was a checker for the Islanders. This guy scored 140 points. I keep wanting to say Butch Goring, but it wasn't Butch.
But you said a big center. It wasn't Butch, I'll tell you that.
No, I know, but he oh gosh, he was
Turnbull?
No, he was not a big guy, but he was the third.
He a tall guy? You said?
No, he was a big scorer in junior. He set a record for Canadian junior hockey. Huh?
Wayne Merrick?
No, he was smaller.
Not bossy, right?
You would know the guy. He's a short, blonde guy, and he was like the third line center on the Islanders 4 Cup years. Oh, gosh. I shouldn't have brought it up because I can't remember his name. But he played for New Westminster.
Oh, he
scored like 140 points in junior.
Bobby.
Glenn Henning. Henning was his last name.
Henning.
Henning.
Yes.
Henning. What? It was not Glenn.
No, it wasn't Glenn.
It was Henning, no.
Okay.
And
Brian Henning.
Could have been, yeah. But he was
this
Henning. Big score for the New
Lauren Henning.
Lauren Henning, yeah.
There you go. Still got it.
There you go.
But he was like 140 points, big score and everything. When he went to the Islanders, he had to learn to become a checker, and he became a really good defensive center,
right?
Which is very rarely you see. But he played for New Westminster.
Yeah, well, I think they basically kicked the team out of the league because they had so many brawls and so many infractions. And Blake, remember telling me one time that 2 guys they basically chased the ref off the ice, and a bunch of guys grabbed them, and they were.
I shouldn't be laughing.
It was a Western hockey league.
Oh,
it was the Wild West, right? Like,
yeah.
Ernie, the first coach's name was Ernie, his first name.
Oh, yes.
Barry Beck played for him.
Yes.
And Bubba was, he was.
You know what? He had one eye.
I'll tell you that.
He only had one eye.
Yes.
Yeah.
He lost it playing hockey.
He got a big injury.
So he went into coaching.
Ernie. Oh, right. Yeah, I know. I can see him. I can't remember his first name, though. Because I think the first name started with
Barry
an
Beck
F.
is now?
That F and Ernie.
Barry Beck is in China.
What? He's
been in China for 35, 40 years teaching kids how to play hockey.
Oh, really?
I got a. It's really funny. I heard from him because when his son got killed, in Hamilton, his son got shot. I reached out, and that's when I was doing some work for the KHL.
Right.
Team from China, and I reached out to him. He was in Shanghai, and I just saw that he was in a hospital. It came across Facebook. He was in a hospital.
Oh, wow.
He's not well. He's not doing well. And I saw it on Facebook, and I have his number and all that. So I did text, and he just texted back, "Thanks, Espo." Because he and I was at his apartment, and we were walking to Sparks. Sparks is a restaurant in New York.
Yeah.
Have steak. When we heard pop, 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 gunfire. And I said, "What the hell?" He says, "Let's go look." I said, "Are you crazy?" I said, "We go the other way." That's when, what's his name, got killed by Gotti.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Outside of
the
Sparks.
mobsters. Oh.
Costello. Shot him outside of Sparks.
Yeah.
And
You were a
Bubba,
couple blocks away.
We were not even a couple of blocks, because Barry lived just off of 2nd Avenue, and his Sparks was between 2nd and 3rd Avenue.
Yeah.
And
great steakhouse, by the way.
it was.
Yeah.
It is. It's
Yeah,
a
it
great
is,
stand.
yeah.
It still is.
Yeah.
And I said to Barry, "Are you crazy? We're not going to go down there. What are you? That's no good." And the cop comes in and says, "Listen, you guys," the cop recognized me, right?
Yeah.
And he says, "Espo, you don't want to go down there." I said, "Bubba, let's go the other way. Come on, we'll go someplace else and have a drink or something." And he says, "But Phil, we'll find out what's going on." The cop said, "Castellano got shot." I said, "Barry, we gotta get the hell out of here right now.
Right.
Don't be."
That was the big
around.
Mafia Wars. Who was going to take over Atlantic City
Gotti.
then? Yeah,
Teflon Don.
I know. And they were going to see who was going to take, because I told you I went to the Angelo Bruno,
Yeah.
head of the Mafia in Philly, and this friend of mine, we never had agents back then, but he was getting us a bunch of appearances and everything, right? Joe Moderci was his name. So he said, "Chief," he says, he says, his wife Claire was the sweetest lady in the world. He says, "Her uncle just died. So could you get a couple of guys and go to the funeral?" I said, "Yeah, sure, John. Joe, for Claire, we'll do anything for her." So the only one I could get was Tommy Blade. Tommy was 18 years old, "Hey, gee whiz, what is it?" He was like that little dog with Spike. Hey, Spike, what do you want to do, Spike? He was just, from Edmonton, he was just full of life, and had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
We go in Philly, and we come down, and we're going to the mutant. We get frisked going into the funeral. And I go, "Wait a minute." And Tommy, "Oh, geez, this is really funny." I go, "Tommy, shut up. We might not go in here." And I says, "Why? We told Claire we're coming." I said, "Oh, let me go find out." We go in there, and I get Joe, and I says, "Joe, who the hell is Claire's uncle?" oh, I didn't tell you? I said, no. He says, it's Angelo Bruno.
Oh, boy.
He was called the Gentleman Don in Philly because he wouldn't get into drugs. And it was the big war over who was going to control Atlantic City from the mob, and he got shot.
Yeah.
There, and we're going, I said, Joe, you idiot.
Because the other guys wanted to get into the drug business because it was so lucrative.
Teflon Don was the one that was the big one that was going to end up. Yeah. I mean, we're going like, you got to be kidding me.
I went to 3 or 4 charity events for the Gaudis.
Yeah.
At Tavern on the Green was a couple I went to. And, I mean, there were FBI people all over the place.
Oh, I know.
And you don't, look, you're invited to go. You're playing for the New York Rangers, you know, and what the hell? I'm invited. Nobody tells me from the Rangers, maybe you shouldn't go.
Right.
So I go.
Yeah.
And I was told by the FBI, says, you know, you shouldn't be here. I said, look, I don't know who these people are. I'm just here supporting the charity, man. Because Gaudi's wife was really into this charity.
Right.
And she tried very hard for kids.
Yeah.
And look, her husband was another story.
Right.
But I just said, okay, I mean, what do you want me to do? Just leave? Guy said, no, but just be careful. Now, when he said be careful, I remember saying to my wife, I was married to Donna then. Yeah. I said, Donna, we're going in, we're saying hi.
And we're out of here.
We're going to have one drink.
And we're gone.
We're gone. Because I was living on the Upper West Side, and Tavern on the Green was right there.
Right there, yeah.
And in the park, and that was an experience. I'm telling you. But not like that dude in Boston when he pulled a gun on me. He was drunk, pulled a gun on me. He said, I'm going to shoot you right now. You just blew $20,000 for me. I said, what'd I do? He said, you blew the spread. I scored in an empty net.
Oh, my gosh.
And I blew the spread.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you kidding me?
New Haven was like that. I played in the old Eastern League, the old Slapshot movie. We go in there, and I was the biggest guy in the team, and I was the goalie, Kobe. I had 100 minutes in penalties as the goalie. I had to go and help fight these little. Why we had defensemen? They're like 5'5" type of thing. Well, they were a little bigger than that, but they were getting their butts kicked, and they were gambling like crazy. New Haven was major boys out there, you know, and they would score, and if it was more than 2 goals, and if they score an extra one, they throw shit on the ice and let them yell at us, screaming at you, and they come in and they yell in the locker room, we're going to get you guys like this. And I'm going, what the heck is going on? He says, well, because we blew the spread. We blew the spread.
Oh, my God.
You know what?
Oh,
Braydon, thank you.
This has been fantastic.
I got to tell you, Chief and I went on the cruise.
I'm sorry. I wish I could have made it. That
it was fun because Andre was nuts.
I've heard some stories. I heard you guys put on a good.
The funny thing is, sometimes, like I remember Freddie Modine. Chief and I had a few, and when you have a few, you know, stories you start remembering things from way back. You'll understand when you get our age. Yeah. You remember these little stories, and all of a sudden somebody will trigger something, and you can remember it again. We really appreciate you coming on with us.
This is fun, and I remember us being in Sweden, and we're at that hotel bar down at the beautiful hotel bar, like great drinks, and Phil, you were there, and you were telling stories, and it was like, I don't know if you remember this, but I just remember all of a sudden it started with 3 guys, and then there was 6 guys, and then all of a sudden there was 15 guys, and they were just like kind of semicircled around you, and you were telling stories, and it was just an amazing experience, and much like today, I just had a great time.
Funny thing is, I remember when him and I sit in his backyard or my backyard and smoking a cigar and having a few.
Yeah.
We remember crap that we never
forgotten for years.
Right.
Yeah.
Something just connects.
And it's fun.
Something. And,
It's fun, and I thank you for coming with us.
Thank you guys. This was
awesome. Thank you guys. Man. And good luck to you.
I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
And that's, I guess, wraps it up. Okay, Stevie? Cool.
Thank you for listening to Martini Mondays with Phil Esposito and Bobby the Chief Taylor. New episodes drop every Monday in your favorite podcast app. And don't forget to tip your waitress and leave us a 5-star review.